Hello everyone. I'm so glad today to have a new episode of the podcast series Connecting Social Research to Society. I am with you, Sari Hanafi, Professor of Sociology at the American University of Beirut and the founding of the Portal for Social Impact of Scientific Research in/on the Arab world, portal called Athar. Today I'm so glad to have with us Susanne Dahlgren. Hello, Susanne.
Hello, nice to be here,
Yeah,
and thank you for the invitation.
My pleasure. Susanne is a Finnish anthropologist specialized in southern Yemen, but not only. We will see about her scholarship go beyond Yemen. Currently, she is the director of the Finnish Institute in the Middle East, based in Beirut, since June 2023. She's also an adjunct professor at the University of Helsinki. Actually, she studies social anthropology in the University of Edinburgh and London School of Economics and in Helsinki University. She minors in different domain, art history, theoretical philosophy, and life model drawing. When it comes to her PhD dissertation, which was published in Syracuse University Press in 2010, so it was about contesting realities, the public sphere, and morality in southern Yemen. So in fact, her study focused on social dynamics in the city of Aden, seen from the perspective of competing moral frameworks. And we will talk about this different frameworks, including Sharia. So she did an ethnographic study draw from discussion on moral property as a present in Islamic and Western moral philosophy. She has a current research project which look to the history of Sharia and fiqh, and particularly in the court practice in Aden. So it will be a book project. Soon we will hear about it, and I will ask her about that. Susanne also, she was vice president of the Nordic Society for the Middle East, and currently she is a board member of the Association of the Middle East Anthropology, which is affiliated with MESA. She is also board member of the journal Hawa. It's about gender and in the Middle East, and she is co-editing with Judith Tucker the book series Women and Gender, the Middle East and the Islamic World. It is part of Brill in Leiden in Netherlands. Again, hello Susanne. So glad to have you with us.
Hello.
Yeah. So our listener wanted to know first, what the hell somebody from Finland so far, interested in the Arab world, in Aden, but maybe why Susanne went to the social anthropology. Can you start telling us about that?
Yeah, first of all about my connection to the Middle East, because usually people think that if somebody comes from Europe, in particular from Northern Europe, that there must be some personal reason to become interested in the Middle East. But well, obviously I do have a personal interest, but I must first tell you that I have my grandfather's sister married a Swedish agronomist who went to and worked in Cairo University
In Cairo.
to develop the cotton cultivation in Egypt. So that was in the late 19th century.
Oh, wow.
And they got 2 daughters while living in Cairo. And the daughters got names from the ancient Egyptian mythology. One is called Asra and the other one Thais.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So this is my sort of...
It's a pharaonic names.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is my sort of family connection, if you like, to the Middle East. But basically I was a young teenager when I became involved in Palestine activism. So I was in the school, and before that I became sort of politically aware, if you like, as a child when there was the war in Vietnam, and I felt that it was so unjust. So my feeling of injustice sort of rose at that time. And then as a teenager I became involved with Palestine activism in Finland, because at that time Finland, I think, was one of the leading countries in solidarity movement with Palestine.
Absolutely. I do remember I have a long conversation with the Palestinian ambassador in Finland, Al-Wazir. Zuhair Al-Wazir.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do remember that how friendly the Finnish people vis-a-vis the Palestinian, and we don't I mean maybe people don't know that Finland really suffers so much from a colonial incursion. I mean, whether Swedish one or Russian one. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Finland is a sort of marginal country or has been considered as a marginal country, and always sort of under some other rule until independence in 1917. But and interestingly, actually, when Yasser Arafat visited Finland, that was sometimes in the 80s, I think. My mother, who was a well-known journalist in Finland and quite sort of leaning to the right, so she was very much in favor of the Palestinians, and she went to meet Yasser Arafat.
So it's not only the left,
No.
and even the right. Is it? It's very interesting. Actually, I mean, somehow for the first time in the last few months, we see right-wing governments in Netherlands, for instance, and even in Finland. I mean, take a position against Netanyahu and Israel. I mean,
that's right. I don't think that this is a question that sort of divides left and right divisions. Rather, it's a question of whom you are sort of influenced by, and your sorry, your knowledge basis. How much you know. So so that's the dividing line, I would say.
Okay. So why did you go to anthropology in your study?
Well, that was basically because I thought that I have been always interested in variety, meaning that how things and life sort of varies in different countries and among different societies. And then when I was in school, I didn't know that there's a discipline called anthropology. But when I graduated from school, then I started to read and okay, this anthropology, this is definitely for me. So that's how I ended up with that. But then the story about how I became a Yemen scholar, that's actually quite interesting, because I had started my anthropology studies already, and then one summer, because I come from a rather sort of non-wealthy family, so every summer I have to take a job in order to support my studies. So I didn't have any job that summer, and then I heard from the National Union of Finnish Students that there is an international student brigade organized in a country called South Yemen. So that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
in that time, just to refresh our memory, it was two Yemens.
Two Yemens, yeah. South Yemen with Aden as the capital, with the leftist government, and then North Yemen, which had a sort of a little bit different government, but you cannot call it sort of with one name. I would say military technocrat country, North Yemen. So yeah, so two Yemens, and this particular student brigade was organized because there were heavy floods that summer in South Yemen. You know, when it rains too much, and then from the mountains the water masses start to come, they pushed everything from their way to the sea, basically. Bridges, roads, houses, people, cattle, everything. It was a big catastrophe. So the International Union of Students organized this brigade, and I said that okay, I'll go. I had no previous knowledge about the country. And when I arrived there, I realized that there was a student camp in the countryside outside Aden with about 100 participants, and I was the only female participant.
Oh my God!
Yes.
All male.
Yeah. So we were sort of maybe 22 or something international participants from different countries, Asia.
The remaining
Africa.
are Yemeni or Arab and Yemeni?
The remaining were Yemenis.
Yeah. Okay.
And the organizers, they wanted to have girls, Yemeni girls, also to participate, but because it turned out that there is no other girls sort of around, so they couldn't allow their
daughter,
to participate. But after I arrived, then there were some families who allowed their girls to come and visit us. And then the organizers, they were very keen on sort of promoting, because at that time the government policy was that this what they called Tahrir al-Mara, women's emancipation. So they were very interested in putting me to make speeches in public events, and talking about how my as a sort of young woman traveled to other part of the world, and how in Finland this women's emancipation has been promoted and all that. It was very interesting. We were in the countryside in a big cinema hall, and I could see from the stage that there were hundreds of people.
Yeah.
But when it came my turn to give a speech, then I checked more carefully, and I noticed that there was not a single woman in the audience.
Yeah, my God.
And it was a really funny feeling, sort of.
And I am surprised, Susanne, because it's happened in 82. I went for military training in Yemen. Myself with Fatah. And so I travel a little bit in south of Yemen, and I realize how open compared to what I know about northern Yemen. So and really the socialism, this even I do remember, for instance, I was walking and suddenly I saw a hospital called Lenin Hospital or Marx. I mean, a flagrant name. This to show you how they are open to the, if you like, to socialist world, and so. I think that the biggest change that happened at that period was that women really came in
in working life and in education. And before that, there was the British colonial system, and during that time, only the elite families allowed their daughters to gain some education.
Okay.
So it was a sort of revolution for women in particular
Okay.
in South Yemen.
Okay. And so you give your speech, and how things went.
Well, I mean, that was the time when very few sort of Westerners went to South Yemen.
Yeah.
So of course, I mean, and Yemenis as a people, they are extremely friendly. So they were really encouraging, sort of, and to see me there and respecting me, and so that was a really positive experience. And then I decided that okay, I need to study this society, because I learned that no anthropologist had actually studied the society. There had been these classical Orientalists who study language and customs and so on, and some historians and sociologists. But anthropologists, nobody had been there, in particular in Aden.
Yeah, you talk particularly about the south, because in north, I mean, from my memory, Frank Mermier was there.
Yes. So many.
From London School of Economics, what's her name? Our dear friend
Marta Mandi.
Marta.
She was my supervisor.
Oh my God!
Yes.
So Marta was your supervisor.
Yes.
Okay.
And I still have a contact with her. Yes.
Yeah. So you were really in a good hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I'm really grateful to Marta. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you decide to study. In that time, you were in a master level, or you start thinking about your PhD.
No, I was in my bachelor's level, and then I started to prepare to collect material for my master's thesis. In Finland, we have a quite sort of large master's thesis. So mine was 120 pages.
Oh wow!
And I managed to go back to South Yemen and by taking a job in a Finnish healthcare project. So I was working as a coordinator or administrator for the project, and our project was it was an NGO-based project in the very east of South Yemen, near the Oman border. So we sent nurses, qualified nurses, to work in the hospital there, in an area which is called Al Mahra. So and I was stationed in Aden, and my job was to be in touch with all the administration and get all the permits and whatever we needed. So meaning that daily I was sitting in some offices and observing life.
Oh wow!
And getting to know really sort of many people, of course, and also the sort of administrative culture and sort of politics from that perspective. Something that in anthropology we call the everyday state.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then that kind of, and that's actually my second book project that I'm preparing now. It's studying the state in 3 different places in Yemen, because after unity came, then I worked for some time also in Sana'a as an administrator.
Okay.
And then obviously I had my experience from the east, from Al Mahra. So I'm comparing these 3 places, how the state is sort of working as an everyday state towards people, and how it is sort of how the people who work in that state as administrators, how they sort of pursue the state and its role and everything. So in that sense, it's my other book is about the state in Yemen, but showing how it differs how different it is in these three places. And it's not only because there were two countries in Yemen, but it's also that the administrative culture was different. So in North Yemen they were following the Egyptian administrative system.
Okay.
And in South Yemen they maintained the British administrative system after the independence. And it turned out that this Egyptian system was much more bureaucratic. Really sort of, I started
I can imagine.
to face many difficulties after the unity. So in taking care of the administration, and thus I've collected my material for my master's thesis, which was about changes that the people I followed had in their life when the unity of Yemen came.
Okay.
So I'm sort of comparing how it was during the what is called democratic Yemen and how it became their life after in the unity.
Okay. So you finished your master and then you enrolled in your PhD. So can you tell us a little bit about your?
To start my PhD studies, I went to I got the Erasmus scholarship, and then I went to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and there I think my anthropology studies really got a better boost because it was so much bigger department.
Definitely.
And compared to Helsinki.
Yeah.
Plus that there were people who were interested in the Middle East.
In Edinburgh, it has been for a long time. I mean,
exactly.
In Arabic studies, I know.
Also, I studied Arabic there while there. It's a big university and very sort of good resources.
Yeah.
But
then, your supervisor from London School of Economics.
Then I changed because in Edinburgh there wasn't anybody who was sort of really specializing in Yemen. Because I had become to understand that Yemen is so different from other Arab countries, and people who are familiar with other Arab countries they cannot understand how Yemen is actually. So I went to a big conference, Yemen Studies conference in Exeter. And there I met Marta Mandi. And I asked her if she would like to be my supervisor, and to my biggest luck, she said yes. And since then I wrote text and then I mailed it. It was that time when you didn't have email yet. So I no, actually there was email. I emailed my text and she sent it back in regular mail because she made markings with the red pen. So that was very useful and functioning system. And then I spent some time also in the LSE. But it was very difficult to be there because the fees are so high. And I don't come from a wealthy family, so I had to minimize my stay there and try to obtain some scholarships. But I managed to be twice, spend a long time there. And then of course I met Fred Halliday.
Wow. So
and I mean Fred Halliday and he's by that time or previous wife Maxime Molyneux were the two people who had written about South Yemen.
That's true.
And so it was really important for me to meet personally with Fred and Maxine. And Fred in particular helped me very much in obtaining some rare texts and encouraging me. So it was really important.
And how come you were interested in the court, if you like, and observing the court?
That was because initially I had become aware of that the family code in South Yemen was considered sort of progressive when you compare it to other Arab family codes. And I got a copy of that code, and then I realized that, okay, this is very interesting. And my initial idea was that I go to Yemen and collect material among women in particular about if they know about their rights.
Yeah.
But when I went there, I realized that I cannot make that kind of study before I study how the society works.
That's true.
Because there were no previous anthropological or even sociological studies, sort of larger studies on the Adeni society. So that's why my PhD was about what is the social dynamics sort of in Aden. How does the system or the everyday sort of society work? And then I realized that which became the sort of major thesis in my dissertation, that in fact they have three sort of parallel moral understandings which they adopt in different situations, different social situations, and it's not that these sort of compete with each other. No, it's that or that that people would be sort of adherents of one system. Well, some people were, but mostly it was a sort of a social dynamics which functioned the way that people sort of carried these ideas with them in different social situations and acted according to them. And I gave three names to these systems. I mean, obviously all of them are about Islam. It's about how you sort of live your religion in everyday life. But I called the first this what is called tradition of our customs and traditions, Adat wa Taqalid. Yeah, and that's separate from what was sort of the current way of practicing Islam. So the second I called Islamic sort of morality code. And that was sort of bringing Islam sort of more to the everyday communication by acting sort of bringing Islamic symbols, language, everything, outfits, everything in everyday practice. And then the third one I called Tauri, like revolutionary, because that was the sort of the women's lib and all that because in according to the religious rhetoric and the traditional rhetoric, men and women should not mix. But according to this revolutionary idea, it was that the woman's morality is in her brains.
Okay.
It's not in her outfit or that you don't allow her to go out from your home. But it's sort of by educating, allowing women to educate, you create them as sort of useful players in society in all levels, including politics.
But the revolutionary layer, it's very thin. I mean, if we take your own example about a summer camp where you have only one woman among hundreds of men. Yes.
Yeah, no? But that was in '82, and when I returned at the end of '80s, '88, it was already sort of different.
Okay.
I went also to that area in the countryside, and I interviewed some women who were working in the fields. There was one woman who had graduated from Aden University, and she was leading as an agronome, leading the work in a state farm. So she was the supervisor there, and then there were women who worked in the fields. So it was a big jump for women, the whole 1980s.
Okay.
So and I'm describing these changes in my work. So, yeah, but then I mean it's a good point to say that because with the Yemen unity this sort of revolutionary experience went a little bit sort of aside, because obviously the state became more sort of influenced by the northern way of living, and people who were earlier sort of in favor of this sort of more revolutionary sort of way of doing things, they were put into margin.
Okay.
But in recent years, in particular in the south, because they have now, in the early 2000, they started a movement to regain their independence, and this is very much sort of influenced by the ideas of the PDIY, the Democratic Yemen, meaning that you should have really women in all fields of life, and also that you should not have religious people in the running the country or something like that, and also not
And
to
is
have.
it also influenced by United Arab Emirates, who now the military tutelage of southern Yemen? What do you think that?
Yeah,
If we talk currently about.
Yeah, the current situation. Yeah, I mean, I think that's very interesting because I mean, Yemen is very much divided still, and this Yemen unity hasn't been so successful.
Sociologically, I mean that on the ground.
People in the south, it's not that they would like to have the one-party system back. No, absolutely not. But rather they thought that they were more advanced than the north.
Okay.
And now that the state is run according to the northern standard, sort of, then these people felt that they are going backward in what they have gained.
Yeah, but Susanne, I mean, it's a very interesting that historically we describe, we say, look, northern Yemen is a tribal, conservative, etc., and southern one with the impact of the socialist doctrine, etc. It open, it's not anymore tribal. And then when it was a fighting between the two leaders, the famous fighting, if my memory good, in the early 90s, I mean, in fact, it was, we realized it was a big family fighting. I mean, it's again a tribal dynamics in the southern Yemen. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it was the British already who sort of tried to downplay the tribal factor in society, and when the socialists came to power, they sort of tried to create a citizenship, meaning that everybody has
equal.
Equal, and then also has a direct relation to the state. That there is no sort of patrons or tribal, or that women have to have some kind of male representative to be able to talk even in public. So that's something that happened at that time. But then obviously, I mean, the countryside is a tribal countryside in both in south and in north. And always, because tribes are also a system of protection, in particular when
especially when the state collapses.
Exactly, and also when there is any kind of sort of disputes or conflicts, you turn to your tribe first. And you get protection from there. Of course, in cities it's a little bit different, because there you turn to your family and then to your neighbors. But in the countryside it is a tribal society. So obviously whenever there comes fighting, then it's the sort of a tribal organization which sort of relaunches, and that's what happened in 86 in South Yemen, when they had this fighting in between two sort of wings of the Socialist Party. That was very catastrophic and unfortunate event. and then in the first civil war after unity in 94.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like to talk about your take about what is going on Yemen and maybe the peace plan you suggested later on maybe. But let me move. I mean, to your really very interesting work. I do remember you co-author an excellent article in Al Hawa journal. It's a journal of women and gender in Middle Eastern studies in Middle East, where you describe, if you like, that contrary to our perception that there is a kind of a very polarized law and Sharia practice, where you have from one side Sharia, it's something, it's fixed, while the other, I mean, inspired by Western sources, and you show in fact since 19th century this reading is wrong reading. Can you tell us a little bit, and then I will have some comment and question.
Yes, but actually, I became interested in by having access to the family court in Aden, and because of they were very friendly judges. Most of them actually women judges who allowed me to observe the cases there. And then I realized that in order to understand what is this sort of law here, I had to become familiar with classical Islamic law, fiqh, and Sharia. But also I had to study the sort of legal concoction that the British made during their long colonial era, in particular in India, which is called the Anglo-Mohammedan law. So meaning that it was a British understanding of what exactly is Sharia, and they were practicing that in all of their colonies, wherever they were Muslims.
Malaysia and
even in Africa, in some places.
Okay. So Anglo-Mohammedan law. Okay.
And they are actually very famous textbooks of this system, partly written by some British scholars and partly by some British Indian scholars.
Okay.
And it's a sort of concoction, and that was brought also to Aden. So the Brits they established what they called Sharia courts. And they brought the judges from Britain. So all the judges were British men, of course, and barristers in the court.
But at least they speak the local language?
Not all of them, no.
Really? I mean, it means that there is people who prepare the case for them, but they, as a judge who knows the law, I mean, they said in that case you do this, you do.
Yeah, well, you know, they were barristers who worked in the courts.
Yeah.
And they were mostly sort of from British India. And so they were Indian. And because the local population was not given chances to educate as judges, so these people were some of these barristers, they knew Arabic, but then there was a system of court translators.
Okay.
And some of the British judges, they did understand Arabic, so it was a sort of system where you had all these different, and then of course you had the scribes who were sitting outside the courthouse, who helped the applicants to file their applications and all that. So that was it was a sophisticated system, and it at one stage, because there was of course local pressure to get local Islamic scholars, fuqaha, to be involved in the court system.
Okay.
They brought the main Qadi of Aden to run, but then at the same time they sort of tied his hands so that he was forced to work within this Anglo-Mohammedan legal system.
Okay.
And
for
he
instance,
resigned.
polygamy is allowed in this Anglo-Mohammedan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a kind of if you like, basically it's how the local custom and fiqh, but then some what is if you
Well,
like,
actually,
a kind,
yeah,
a red line, a British red line.
yeah. In my studies, I mean, I studied several sort of historical cases because they are court files
Yeah.
that I could study. So I realized that it wasn't that the judges would know the local culture, even though there was a local manual which I thought that was very useful from the 19th century, where the sort of different aspects of Sharia and the local custom are discussed. So they considered that this book was not sort of authoritative.
Okay.
Instead, they brought these Indian sort of Anglo-Mohammedan legal manuals there, which were basically sort of readings of classical work like Hidayah and all
Okay.
this
Okay.
in English language, of course.
Okay.
So it was a really sort of a judge-made law in his court.
Yeah.
And the judge obviously was very much biased with the understanding of how women's position in UK was at that time, because even in the 1950s, women actually in UK didn't have many rights.
Voting rights, not etc. I
I
do
mean-
read
I mean-
about Manchester movement where
Yeah,
where really it was it was in 20s in 20th century, around 1920, if my memory.
Yeah, but no, this is about what happens when a man divorces his wife.
Okay.
And the English understanding was that the wife cannot possibly stay in the flat because it's men's property.
Okay.
That kind of issue. So I mean, these kind of things have been corrected after that in Britain.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so I mean, it was a double prejudice among these British judges, because first of all they were influenced by the sort of male bias of from UK, you can say. But then they also had the understanding that the local customs and religion is so much sort of inferior to the British culture and civilization. So women cannot possibly have any rights in that Sharia system.
Okay.
So I mean, it's really fascinating, because I mean you have to really sort of read and see what is the source of this and that.
So you work in archive, Susan?
There's very little archives, unfortunately, on Aden, and I have been working in basically the India office collections, which are stored in British Library
Okay.
in London.
Okay. Okay.
And there's another archive in Kew, outside London,
Okay.
in UK. So trying to find sort of cases, legal cases among the piles of sort of colonial documents, because there is no sort of even today there is no sort of legal archives in Yemen.
Oh my God.
So it's the barristers who have their own personal archives. And if you enter the courtroom in any of the courts, you might see some kind of pile of case files, but then it's very sort of random, and there's no sort of systematic archiving.
I see. I mean, it's really unfortunate. I read the work of Bshara Doumani, for instance, about the northern of Lebanon court in 19th century, and how how much we can understand what has been the society in Lebanon, and different sect and confessions. I mean, how they practice social practice of law, if you like, and tell us so much about society and gender issue, for instance. I think.
Actually, but this is quite interesting because I think that at the moment when anthropologists went to legal studies, and they were obviously interested in how the law is practiced in courts, so they could find so much interesting sort of information about how women could promote their rights during the pre-modern era. Which was quite new information because before that it was mostly male legal scholars who have been interested in the texts and interpreting the texts, but were not that sort of familiar in how these texts are interpreted in different courts. Because as you know that in Sharia system you don't have the precedence case, rather that each case merits its own sort of evaluation and adjudication.
Okay.
So it was the British who brought this idea that you have to consult previous cases.
Okay.
And in Aden, for instance, they consulted cases from British India or some African court or somewhere, which is nonsense. I mean, because the culture is different and everything. So.
Susanne, in your article, I mentioned in Hawa, you co-authored with Monique Limbeck. You both you argue that the way we see the current law, family law, as some kind either Sharia or positivist one, we cannot understand the current family law by looking at as either or. But you think that it has been historically a legal pluralism, that it has been always a bricolage has been done. And in this article you show us, for instance, Senhouri, who really play a major role for Egyptian law. But it's very interesting. I learned from your paper that actually he was called for Libya to help.
And Iraq.
And Iraq.
Yeah.
So, and I was really surprised about Iraq.
Yeah.
Because Iraq has also a huge... So can you tell us about this legal pluralism and how... Yeah.
I mean, when you follow the history of sort of Islamic law, you come across evidently by the name of Senhouri.
Yeah.
He was a great sort of modern era interpreter of Sharia and adjusting it to the needs of the modern era sort of legal needs. So his touch is very important in some particular countries, even family codes. So that's something very important. If you are interested in Islamic law, you have to know his work and how he sort of wrote together these. And then, of course, I mean, during the modern era, you also have to consider how much the French and the British sort of used their understandings in practicing law in the colonies, of course, but also in how sort of Islamic law became part of the independent countries' legislation. So there is a clear sort of colonial touch
Okay.
which you have to understand also.
And can we talk about reformist Ottoman touch as well? I mean, in the late Ottoman time with the Tanzimat, where it was a kind of modernizing law and separating between personal status things and other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that influence was much more relevant here in the Levant, because to my understanding, part of the legislation that is still practiced in this area comes from that era.
Okay, but you should know that in Tunisia, for instance, until today, the fiqh of the state is a Hanafi, and for simple reason that it is developed compared to Maliki one.
Exactly, yes.
Maliki become the oral tradition, etc. While Hanafi, there is an empire machine is developing it.
And this also comes visible when you look at the British sort of influence because in British India, the British sort of developed very much or were interested in Hanafi law, because for some reason they thought that it's more sort of modern or progressive in relation to Shafi or any other. I mean, Hanafi law became in focus in many countries, and then obviously there are some aspects that you can take from Hanafi law. That, for instance, that if adult woman who wants to marry, if she needs to have the permission of her father, so that kind of issues. But basically, I think this legal pluralism it comes in play in many countries, family laws, because clearly, even during the classical era, actually, the scholars were interested in comparing the different legal schools and taking whatever they thought that is practical and can be adjusted.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. In your paper, you mentioned that in fact the judges is not confined to one school, and sometimes they maneuver between you call it al-ikhtiyar. I mean, they and talfiq. You use this word, which is pejorative, by the way, in the Arabic. When we say it's a kind of it's an unmatching bricolage or something like that. But in fact, this is I think talfiq is a good way to understand the legal history, because you see, if you like, really, if I don't want to use a normative word to say that law and society, it means that how people live and like to live become closer in some area and not closer in other area. I mean, so you are surprised, for instance, that for instance, about polygamy, that some countries really say, look, I mean, it's a very complicated in our modern industrial world now to think about polygamy, but I mean, they remain other issues, for instance, about the custody. It's really alienating, if you like, the family.
Exactly. And I think that what is something that you have to really consider is that because Sharia system is sort of gives quite big sort of leeway to the court judge, because it's the judge who interprets what is Sharia, and depending on the judge, at least I have come across many judges who sort of consider that the purpose of Islamic law is to serve people and serve the common good. maslaha.
Maslaha.
So that's why they sort of take effort to find legal means to service the society or the applicant. So, but obviously you have also bad judges, sort of who are more sort of hostile, maybe to the society or to the particular applicant or something like that, and then it's possible to find ways to make the life not that easy for that person.
Yeah. Okay. And so Susanne, can you make a kind of a statement? How would you see now? How would you describe this this kind of a feminist movement, and I will say woman movement, not always necessarily feminist, woman movement, to say no, there is something wrong with our right, and we want more right, and so and they have some claim. Do you think now, if you like, there is a law movement to match with this claim, at least in some countries, thinking about Moroccan Mudawwana? So how you would see, as a scholar of legal anthropology, if you like, the Arab world, where is heading? And
well, I think it varies in different countries, and obviously, I mean, some of the biggest development has actually taken place in the Arabian Peninsula, because earlier Yemen was the only country where there was a family code. So women in some of the Gulf countries have gained some rights, like in Kuwait. But well, let me take an example from Yemen again, because I think what is important and to understand is that you can, within the women's movement, they have understood that you can use actually Islamic law, Sharia, in order to promote women's rights, even in the modern era. And in Yemen, I was following in the 1990s, the sort of that was after Yemen unity, that there came this sort of wave of Islamization in the society. Some Wahhabi and Salafist preachers who tried to sort of impose very sort of conservative understanding of what it is to be a Muslim. But then the women's movement sort of they immediately realized that in order to fight that kind of development, you have to know Islamic law, and you have to know Sharia and the legal texts in order to fight that kind of thinking. And in the women's movement in Aden, they took this turn, sort of Islamic turn, if you like, and they started to read the old classical manuals, and they wanted to show that this progressive family code that used to be in South Yemen, that it's fully sort of comes from Sharia. And they actually, I thought first that okay, most of the things in this law match with Sharia, but then I wasn't sure about that, if because in the law puts the responsibility of supporting the family also to the woman. And in the beginning I thought that okay, this might not be from Sharia, sort of. But then the female activists, the women activists in Aden, they convinced me. They showed in Quran where it is that also women, if the man is in bad condition, that also the woman should take responsibility in supporting the family. So in that sense, they managed to sort of introduce a new language, sort of in taking part in the discussion on what kind of Islam we have in Yemen.
And this is the recent.
This took place in the 1990s.
Okay.
But
okay.
obviously, I mean, because the current state, since even from the early 2000, has been sort of collapsing in Yemen. So this everything like this was sort of really marginal, and the women's movement could make some advance sort of influence in the country's legislation, but it was limited. And then obviously in came 2011, the big uprising against President Ali Abdullah Saleh, and after that it has been sort of downhill in terms of there hasn't been a functioning state.
Absolutely, and but nevertheless, going beyond Yemen, there is now more and more we hear the voices of Islamic feminists, what we called, and really they. Umayma Abu Bakr and the other, I mean, they, if you like, they are trying to mainstream some ideas in society and making a debate, and you see this debate in the public sphere, and it's not anymore among a thin layer of society.
Yeah, and I think that this is very important in particular where Muslims are sort of minority, meaning in Europe and North America, because these people in those two continents, they have different needs from law than people who live in the Middle East.
Actually, yesterday I was in discussion with a friend to say that now the major presence of Muslims in the Europe, this is maybe I kind of push them to reflect on what I call consistency. It means that you cannot praise imposing veil on Afghanistan and Iran and criticizing imposing unveil in France. For instance, this is inconsistent. So you should think, if you like, either you think that the state should intervene in the conception of the good for society, because what I address is part of my conception of the good, or not. So.
Yeah, I mean, these whale debates are very sort of, even in Finland this summer we have it again, and I mean, unfortunately these debates often sort of bring forward also this Islamophobic ideas. So for me, I think that it's a sort of it's a complicated question, because I mean, at the same time you have to protect those young women, for instance, who don't want to carry a veil, and their sort of brothers or whoever is insisting that they should. And then of course we have to protect those women who want to have a hijab. So it's there cannot be a law which sort of forbids something. I mean, the state should not impose any kind of dress
absolutely.
code.
In any case, I do remember the report. It's called the Stasi report. Stasi was Minister of the Education Order. A report of the committee.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when I read it, was a huge report. I was involved in the time where Alan Turing part of this. Report in interviewing people and asking kids, say, did your parents ask you to put a veil? I mean, this was an evidence of forcing, which is not really an evidence of forcing. I mean, forcing. I mean, this is. I mean, the socialization. I mean, again. Me who work on liberalism, I would say kids' education is part of the conception of the good, unless there is a violence, there is something where you need to intervene the conception of justice, if you like. Otherwise, I mean, if parents tell their kids, look, I mean, it's time you put a veil, doesn't mean that it has been forced.
Yeah. Plus that as an anthropologist, I would say that if you go and interview kids about with that kind of question, you will get normative answers. Meaning that the kids either they think that okay, I have to reply how my parents would want me to reply, or that I have to reply as I think that this interviewer wants to hear.
Yeah, the social desirability.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think it, in order to really sort of get understanding how early teenagers sort of think about whaling, you have to do ethnographic study among them. So I have done that kind of study in Aden, and I have sort of different understanding of, or sort of let me say that I have a more broad understanding of what kind of factors are in play. It's not only that there is the religion or the parents or the state or the law. There are so many other factors that influence the life of young people. So like fashions, peer influence, and then
social media today.
Social media, of course, and I mean pop culture. Nancy Adram. So all this, I mean, it's a concoction of things because in Aden I could follow how the fashions went among the young people. So at one stage the fashion among the very young women was that you have to have not only abaya and hijab, but also a niqab and khunna, which also covers the eyes. Plus, you have to have gloves and stockings. And you know, it's 40 degrees.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But it was the fashion.
So. You know, it was really very eye-opening when we saw in a demonstrator of women. I mean, with a full burqa and. I mean, we imagine, as you said, in the time of hate. Susanne, you, I mean, one question always we raise on this podcast is how a scholar, I mean, be sure that there is trickle down of the amazing research you, for instance, is doing to the public. I would like to tell us about, if you like, how you bridge between Finland and the Middle East, and later on I will ask you about your peace proposal for Yemen. But I mean, about this bridging, I mean, how you would do it? Is it easy? Is it headache?
Well, actually, I do enjoy sort of talking about these things that I have learned in for a general public also. And since my studies, I have been always sort of in touch with media in Finland. So the media has been interviewing me and asking my sort of expertise on different issues on some basically Middle Eastern politics, but also about Islam and different issues related to the Middle East. For instance, this morning I was in the live broadcast in Finnish TV, morning TV, explaining about situation in Gaza and negotiations for a ceasefire, and of course about the humanitarian catastrophe there. So and that's I'm doing in my position as the director of the Finnish Middle East Studies Institute. But as a scholar also, I'm well known in Finland, and that's why I'm currently writing a book with a Finnish colleague of mine who is the best expert in Finland about Palestine questions.
What's he?
Mikko Lohikoski. So we are writing a book on the changes that have that are taking place in the Middle East currently after the Hamas attack in Israel, because that really sort of changed many things. And there are so many things that are sort of globally happening in the world with BRICS coming and this global south sort of rising against the hegemony of the global north and all that. So the book will come out in October.
Oh, wow, very soon, in 2 months.
It's the difficulty in writing such a book is that the situations changing all the time. So, and obviously as a scholar I'm not somebody who would sort of predict anything, but as a scholar I can show what kind of tendencies there are and ways forward that are possible. And also showing what kind of developments there are behind today's news. So that's the sort of point of view in this book.
So, Susanne, can we say that Finnish society is divided, polarized over this question? Look, I do remember. I don't know if I told you this early before. That once I was invited to the Finnish Independence Day in the Finnish consulate in Jerusalem. I was based in Ramallah in that time in Palestine, and I got to know some. I would say Messianic Christian Finnish living in Israel. I do remember still when he was an engineer with he has 11 kids and who at certain point have a kind of a religious awakening, and he thinking that he should be in Jerusalem, and he lived there, and we met 3-4 times later on, and I realized how I would say Zionist, or how pro-Israeli this. So
yes, we do have such people who actually they are called Christian Zionists.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's these are people who believe honestly that the sort of end of times is coming when a Jewish state is established, and then Christians go there and convert these Jews to Christianity.
Oh.
So it's an interesting concoction of supporting Israel and Israeli politics, whatever comes from there.
Yeah.
They don't have any kind of sort of distinction between what is politics and what is the sort of
religious things.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that these are the sort of most loyal supporters of Israel, also in different debates. But then. What I find sort of controversial is that their idea is still to convert the Jews into Christianity. So why don't they respect Judaism? So that's I mean.
They respect Zionism, but not Judaism.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And currently, because Finland is one of those countries in Europe that still hasn't recognized Palestine as a state.
Yeah.
So in our current government, which is a right-wing government, we have a Christian Democratic Party, which is run by these Christian Zionists.
Okay.
So they are very much against that the government should approve that kind of decision, while the president of Finland, he has declared recently that he is ready to acknowledge Palestine.
But you have a prime minister system, not the president system. No?
No, it's it's the president who sort of leads foreign policy.
Okay, but in France.
Yeah,
like in
but
France.
together obviously with the government and the parliament.
Okay. Susanne, you have been working on Yemen for a long time. How would you see? I mean, I learned from you that you had a proposal about a peace. Can you tell us about this proposal?
Yes, as you know, the civil war, the current civil war in Yemen started in 2014. And since then it has been a sort of state of war, even though there is no actual fighting currently, but the humanitarian crisis is there.
It's horrible.
And then we have two actual regimes in Yemen.
Houthi from one side.
Yeah, the Houthi, they took Sana'a in 2014, and since then they have been in power there. They have established their own sort of administration. Everything there, and then the so-called legitimate or internationally recognized government is in Aden. So there are two states, and the situation caused in very rapidly after the fighting started in 2015, the humanitarian situation collapsed. You know, Yemen is a poor country, and then if you have a blockade sort of food and necessities from abroad, then and bombing clinics and even fields, then you obviously have a famine. So during that time, Yemen became the worst humanitarian crisis in the world.
That's true.
Declared by the UN agencies. So then I thought that, okay, some scholars, they like to sign petitions or something like that, but I thought that what's the point? There's no influence if you sign a petition that stop the war. So what? I mean, then I thought that, okay, I have such knowledge that I might sort of present something for the UN, which has a sort of mediation process since then going on, in order to influence them how they should look at the conflict. What is the background of the conflict? And sort of from that perspective, use my knowledge of Yemen and the society and the different states that have been there during the course of time, so that I can push forward some kind of peace process. So I drafted my own peace proposal in 2018, and I gave it to the UN representative of Yemen affairs, and also to the European Union foreign secretary. So after that, of course, I didn't hear anything from them. But then I have been participating in these conferences where Yemen mediation processes have been discussed, and I have presented my proposal also to many Yemeni sort of players, and tried to sort of influence and push forward sort of. And the basic idea in my proposal is that you have to take into consideration that the Houthis, they are in power now in most of North Yemen. So you cannot sort of consider that you just crush them, and it's a fact. And thus you have to present something for them to be willing to go into a sort of peace
Yeah. I mean, this kind of reflection is also interesting for Lebanon. I mean, when Hezbollah, I mean, become a party representing a whole community. I mean, it's very difficult to say we crush them.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but also, that you have to consider that the country is very divided, and in Yemen, that it's very sort of different lifestyles. You can say that. Thus, you have to respect the regional differences. And I suggested that instead of sort of trying to invade Sana'a back from the Houthis, you put the capital of Yemen into a new place, Taiz. Taiz is it's the biggest city in whole Yemen.
That's true.
And there has been...
And the coastal one, so it's important.
No, it's not coastal.
No, it's not coastal? No, sorry.
Hodeida is the coastal.
Hodeida, yeah, sorry.
So Taiz, and at one stage it was the capital of North Yemen during the Imamate.
Okay.
So it's the most populous place, and plus that the fighting has been the most severe there.
That's
so
true.
These people sort of deserve a big break. So I suggested that you form this kind of sort of new capital there, and ask both current capitals to send their representatives there. But then at the same time you sort of divide the country into different regions where you have local rule and start reconstructing. So the main idea in my peace plan is that start reconstructing while the conflict is still there.
Ah, okay. It's a kind of confederation, what you call for.
Yeah, federation, yeah. And make the regions compete with each other, who is sort of providing better life for the people. Don't start with elections or anything like that, because the society is not ready for that. Not to do the mistakes that the Americans made in Iraq or wherever, that you sort of impose elections too soon, before the civil society has been able to formulate new parties.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because otherwise you are only promoting some the basic sort of fighting lines. This is what happened in Iraq. So this idea of starting reconstructing while the conflict is still on, it has been practiced already in some African places. So there is a sort of good experience on that. So my idea is that you start doing something positive and engage people, give them jobs, because currently the only people who create jobs are some militias, including Al Qaeda. They have good salaries. So you can get these men out from these militias by offering construction work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's in brief my idea about this
very
peace
interesting.
plan.
Yeah, so really it is you make an interesting case of that we should not be minimally just signing petitions, but I mean go and push for a solution, for recommendation for solution.
Using my knowledge.
Yeah.
For something that obviously it's a political issue, but then I think that in my peace plan I'm not taking anybody's side, except the side of the regular Yemenis who are sick and tired of this war.
Absolutely, and really, I mean, I tell you, me as a Palestinian, in the same time, I'm so happy that the Houthi is helping Palestinian, but in the same time, I'm when Israel start to bombard Yemen, I say, no, my God, I mean, it's, I mean, these poor people, I mean, they already they were in a hunger situation. I mean, that we come to add.
Exactly, yes, and then it's interesting because obviously I have been carefully following which targets Israel is hitting and the Americans and British also in Yemen, they have been targeting in particular Hodeida port, which is the main lifeline of Yemen, bringing food, energy, medicine from abroad. And these three countries, they have been bombing Hodeida port in particular. I mean, obviously, I don't know if there is a vicious idea of sort of trying to create some kind of strife among Yemenis, that people would raise against the Houthis, that now they are bombing this our port because you are supporting the Palestinians. It will never happen, simply because all Yemenis since as far as I remember have been supporting the Palestinians. And I think among the Arab countries it's the most steadfast solidarity that you get from Yemenis to the Palestinian cause. So I mean, it's but then at the same time I must add that Houthis are not celebrated in Yemen. I mean, in terms of their politics.
Absolutely. And I think this is the dilemma that we live in, that Yemeni has. I mean, and with this authoritarian regime, I mean, very tribal, solidarity is a group against other group. I mean, التغلب الغلبة أو التغلب in Arabic. I mean, this hegemony, I mean, is terrible. Susanne, thank you so much for this very interesting, really conversation we have.
Thank you for listening to my stories.
So it's a very interesting, and thank you for listening to us, and hopefully to see you in other episode of the podcast Connecting Social Research to Society. And goodbye.